You know that feeling when you're watching a music video and you just know there's something else going on? A hidden story, something way bigger, lurking just beneath the surface. Well, today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most ambitious story worlds ever built by a band, the BTS universe. I mean, this thing is so vast, so interconnected that academics are actually writing papers about it. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? It's one thing for a massive film studio to build out a universe over, a dozen movies. But how did a K-pop group, starting from a pretty small company, manage to weave this single continuous story through years and years of music, videos, books, and even games? Let's get into it. And when I say the scale is immense, I am not kidding. We're not just talking about a few connected music videos here. The official BTS universe is this sprawling thing that includes a webtoon, laying out a super complex time travel plot, mobile games that actually let you play around in that world, books filled with character diaries, and there's even a full-on TV drama. This is a true transmedia beast.
Okay, so to make sense of this whole thing, here's the plan. We'll start with what this phenomenon is all about. Then I'm going to let you in on the secret narrative blueprint that academics use to analyze its structure. After that, we'll use that blueprint to actually decode the story, see how it exploded beyond just music, and finally, we'll get to the most crucial part, the difference between the universe and the official franchise. First things first, the BTS universe phenomenon. This really isn't just about fan theories going wild online. Nope, this is about a deliberately, carefully constructed world that critics and scholars have recognized as a major cultural creation, one that honestly begs for a deep, close look. And people caught on pretty early that something was up. Publications like Rolling Stone's India were pointing out that, hey, these aren't just standalone videos. You had these recurring symbols, these interconnected plots, and when you started piecing them together, they created a certain narration. This was all by design, a story hiding in plain sight. So how on earth do you decode it? To really get the architecture of this world, you need a key. And for this explainer, our key is this powerful analytical theory called poetics of expressiveness. Now, don't worry, it sounds super academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's a way to look at any work of art, a poem, a film, a music video, and basically reverse engineer it from the final thing we see all the way back to its original core idea. This diagram shows the model perfectly. Think of it like a set of blueprints for a story. Right there in the middle, at the very center, you've got the most abstract idea, the theme. And as you move outwards through each layer, that idea gets more and more concrete, until, bam, you've got the final visible story on the very outside. Let's start at that very core, the theme. This is the foundation, the why of the story. It's just a simple value statement. And in the BTS world, one of the most powerful, most consistent themes is that difficult, messy, beautiful process of coming of age. So moving one layer out from that theme, we hit the deep design. Here, that abstract idea of coming of age starts to get a little more specific. It's kind of where the creators start brainstorming how they're going to express that theme, but it's still pretty conceptual. And that leads us to the deep structure. Now we're at the architectural level. This is where the plot points get hammered out. Characters are given specific roles, like you're the hero, you're the rival, and the creators decide whose eyes we're going to see the story through. The whole narrative really starts to take shape right here. And finally, all of that work culminates in the outer layer, the surface structure. This is the part we all get to see and experience. It's the finished music video on YouTube, the webtoon you read on your phone, the game you download. It's the concrete, final expression of that initial, abstract theme from the very center. So how do you get from a vague theme to a finished music video? Well, the theory says creators use a kind of toolkit of expressive devices. These are just the techniques they use to build the story. For instance, concretization makes an idea real, like showing a diploma to represent success. Contrast is pretty obvious. It highlights opposites, good versus evil. Augmentation just means intensifying something, turning a sad moment into a full-blown tragedy. And combination is about merging different things to create a whole new meaning. Okay, theory time is over. Let's actually put this blueprint to work and see how it builds a real story. We're going to apply it to the BTS timeline and watch how their whole narrative was constructed right from the very beginning. So,
Way back in their school trilogy era, BTS used that contrast device big time. They showed us two totally different sides of being a young person. On one hand, you had the rebellious student, hip-hop gear, graffiti, fighting the system. But then, in other videos, you'd see the innocent student, perfect school uniforms, first crushes, this idealized version of school life. That whole duality thing was a huge part of their early message.
But what's really wild is that in one of their early, pretty simple-looking videos, Just One Day, the creators planted the seeds for the entire universe to come. Two key symbols, what the analysis calls invariant motifs, pop up for the very first time. You have the butterfly, which is a symbol of transformation and, this is crucial, time travel. And then there's the lotus flower, symbolizing rebirth, a direct nod to a character's fate of having to relive the same day over and over. These were not random pretty pictures. They were the first breadcrumbs. Things get really serious during their most beautiful moment in life era. That theme of coming of age evolves, and it gets a lot darker, a lot more complex. It wasn't just about rebelling at school anymore. It was about the brutal realities of becoming an adult, facing things like depression, abuse, and even death. This is where the official BTS universe storyline really kicks off. The academic analysis actually breaks this whole storyline down into a classic 5-act dramatic structure. You've got the friends living a happy, peaceful life. Then, boom, a catastrophe hits and everything falls apart. The first few attempts to fix things just don't work. That leads to the main rescue action, where our hero tries to save everyone. And the whole goal is to hopefully, finally, get back to that peace they had in the beginning. And at the core of this whole drama is this classic conflict between what are called twin characters. Jin's character is our hero. He's the one who gets this ability to leap back in time, and he's desperately trying to stop the tragedies that destroyed his group of friends. And then you have V's character acting as the foil, or the anti-hero. His actions often end up being the very thing that messes up Jin's plans, creating all the tension in the story. But the story couldn't be contained in just the music videos. No way. The creators made a very deliberate choice to expand this whole narrative into a full-on transmedia world, taking its core ideas and adapting them for completely new platforms. So there's a fancy academic term for this, re-semiotization. It sounds complicated, I know, but it's really just about translating a story from one medium to another. It's about taking the essence of that story, the themes, the characters, the feelings, and reshaping it so it works as a comic, or as a game, or as a novel, all while keeping that core identity totally intact. This slide just lays out that journey perfectly. It all starts with that big idea, the proto-theme, coming of age, fighting your destiny. Then, that gets expressed visually and emotionally in the music videos. Next, the webtoon Save Me comes along to spell out the nitty-gritty plot mechanics of the time loop. And finally, you get the game BTS Universe Story, which just throws the doors open and lets fans step inside and become creators themselves. And this is such a key part of the whole strategy. Like media theorist Henry Jenkins said, this kind of storytelling basically turns the audience into hunters and gatherers. You can't just be a passive viewer. You are actively invited to go hunt down clues across all these different platforms, piece them together, and work with other fans to build the complete picture. It makes the whole experience so much more active and honestly way more engaging. Okay, this brings us to our final and maybe the most important insight from this analysis. It turns out there are actually two different story worlds happening at the same time. This is the story behind the story, and it is an absolutely brilliant creative move. So on one side, you have the BTS poetic world. Think of this as the giant umbrella that covers everything BTS has ever put out. It's all loosely connected by those reoccurring themes and symbols we've been talking about, but it's really open-ended, totally open to interpretation. Then, inside that big world, you have the BTS Universe franchise. This is a smaller, officially certified collection of content that follows one very strict, very coherent time travel plot. It's a closed, official story that lives within the much larger open world. The music video for Spring Day is the perfect case study for getting this difference. I mean, it is jam-packed with imagery that screams BTS universe. Piles of clothes representing the departed, lonely characters, hints of traveling through time and space. But here's the twist. It is not officially part of that closed franchise storyline. So why is that such a big deal? Well, by keeping Spring Day outside of the strict franchise rules, the creators left its meaning completely open. And that openness allowed fans to connect the video's powerful themes of loss and grief to a tragic real-world event, the 2014 Sewell ferry disaster. That fan interpretation resonated so deeply in Korea and around the world. And because the video wasn't locked into some sci-fi plot, it could hold this incredibly profound meaning, which made it an entry point for millions of people who weren't necessarily following all the complex lore.
And that right there is the genius of it all. They basically created two lanes. For the diehard fans who love solving puzzles and digging into lore, there's a tight, coherent franchise to decode. But for everyone else, there's this larger, open, poetic world. You can just enjoy the songs and videos on their own terms, bring your own interpretations to them, and you don't need a PhD in the backstory. It's a strategy that somehow manages to satisfy absolutely everyone. So, we'll leave you with this to chew on. The BTS universe really shows us a new way to tell stories, one where the official, creator-approved story is just one piece of a much larger world that's shaped by themes, by symbols, and, most importantly, by the fans. It really makes you ask, in the art that we love, what does it mean when the real story is actually bigger than the official one?